Okay, good evening, all of you. So, yesterday we started with our session on controlling, and we discussed on why controlling is needed, even if we have a separate FI module. And we said that controlling module is also basis for planning. You One of the way you do controlling is you set up some kind of measurement benchmark. So planning can that way act as a benchmark by which you can compare and you can control. So uh, that's where the importance of planning. We looked at the controlling area and operating concern, some of the rules, the component for cost control within the controlling module, the cost element accounting, cost center, internal orders, product cost controlling, profitability analysis, and profit center accounting. And then we looked at some of these MNC scenarios on how can we design uh, the enterprise structure considering controlling area, operating concern, fiscal year variant, chart of account. So we looked at that, and so from there we moved to more holistic view of how the flows happen within the SAP system, starting from business processes into FI module, and then into CO, and then the final outcome which comes out as a reporting for as FI reporting from GL and income statement from the controlling module. And again, this is more description of that same flow. And then we looked at the cost center accounting, and we tried to understand the cost elements and the cost center. We understood the difference between primary cost and the secondary cost. We also understood the relationship that general ledger account has with the primary cost. We also looked at S4 HANA, and so how is it handled differently compared to ECC. And then comes the flow of value from your GL account to cost element into cost center, and then uh, into getting absorbed into the product. And so today we are going to move forward and take up some additional topics which will be of interest. Uh, Before I start, again, just an important note that I'm going to work on sandbox system, which has some inherent instability at times, which I will try to manage as much as possible. Before I go to my slides further, let me show you this once again. So yesterday we started looking at the controlling area 1000, and today I am going to show you the structure of that controlling area 1000. So this place has got all the controlling areas which are defined in this system or within this client. I'll take this controlling area 1000, which is called CO Europe. And this is a cross company code cost accounting is enabled here, which means that you can assign multiple company codes to this controlling area. And if you don't intend to do it, if you just have one-to-one relation, you can select controlling area same as company code. It just helps to tell SAP that there's a possibility of multiple company codes being assigned to the controlling area. And again, this is a configuration. As a power user, none of you would be handling this. It is the work which a consultant does, but then I'm trying to show you much more than what is part of the role. It also has a currency. So if you remember yesterday, we had all these reports in euro because the controlling area currency is euro. Okay. Um, and then comes the chart of account. INT, and fiscal year variant is K4. So as I've said, all the company codes that are to be assigned to this chart of account, to this controlling area, should have the same chart of account INT and fiscal year variant K4. So this is January to December, and the name of this chart of account is International Chart of Account. And then we'll see the company codes that are assigned to this controlling area. So if we come to the same controlling area, CO Europe, now these are the company codes that have been assigned to this controlling area. So there are like 45 company codes that have been assigned, and this assignment can happen only when those rules are followed. Okay. So that is this is one part of this whole structure, the controlling area, uh, the settings which will enable many functionalities within SAP CO. Now, having seen the controlling area, let us go slightly more into that. And there are some other views also of the same controlling area. So the components that get activated in your controlling area. So this is the same controlling area 1000, and we have to activate these components to then only it will work, otherwise not. So cost center, order management, commitment management, activity based costing, profitability analysis, profit center accounting. So these are all activated variances, so you can determine the variances. Okay, so then only it will be possible for SAP to have all the functionalities of this component. Otherwise, you cannot make use of the cost centers, which means you can't even create it. And this is the same assignment which I had shown. Uh, Next important thing is maintenance of versions in controlling area. So what are these versions? And why will you need it in controlling? Because you have perhaps never come across these versions in financial accounting. So if you have ever worked in uh, building planning for your company, then you would realize that planning is not an exercise that gets done in just one single go. No, it requires a lot of iterations, a lot of different scenario modeling is done, and management would try to look at from different angle. They will keep asking you to change the data, and in Excel you'll keep on changing. You'll have multiple copies of Excel made, each copy different, and then finally, after lots of deliberations, one version gets, or one Excel file will get finalized. uh, so in SAP, it's the same thing which is put in as a version. So your different Excel file which you created is nothing but versions. So you can have as many versions as you want, and you can plan differently. There can be scenarios you can build for each versions, and then you can see whether this it will work for you, or you will need some more change. So you may copy one version into another version, okay, and then you can make your changes, and again you can see whether it works. So it will be very similar to what you do in Excel file. You can do it in SAP. That's why the version maintenance is there. So these are versions 0, 1, 2, 3. Can be even defined as alphanumeric. Uh, and the final file which you have generated will become the version 0. Okay, so version 0 is the version based on which you will do your actual but find out the variance, which is why we have selected these boxes, said it to tell to SAP that we are going to do variances. We'll look at plan and actual data, and we'll also do some analysis for the work in progress. And then comes uh, again, now moment I do this, it asks me for a controlling area. So for controlling area 1000 version 0, I have to do settings for each fiscal year that I do planning. So if I have not done this setting, then I cannot do planning. So for 2021, this is already there. So I will do some planning work in 2021, and this is all activated, so should be possible for me. So for whatever versions you create, you will have to define it by controlling area. You go to controlling area. Okay, and you will have to define this by fiscal year. So now let us again go back to where we were yesterday. I will run this report. Well, 112. So we navigated to this through this report yesterday. So at least you have an understanding of how can you go around in this report. So as I said, these are the cost element, and they are primary cost element. How will you know this? Because when you define your chart of account, you will define the number ranges, and based on that number range, you will be able to figure out as an accountant that this number is for asset, this number is for revenue, or this number is for expenses. And so I know that in the chart of account 6 series is a secondary cost element, and we saw that yesterday when we looked at a secondary cost element. So uh, this primary cost got posted here, uh, like we said, from FB50. And then you have the secondary cost also getting posted. And that is what we'll see. How does this happen? This happens even in plan. You see, if you can see how does it happen in plan, it will exactly happen same way in the actual. So we'll see that how does it happen in plan. And when you see the variance, you can see the variance based on plan versus actual, and you can see the difference. And from this report, you can start analyzing your actual entries. For example, this is 90.35% variance, and you can see 481,000. You want to see where this is coming from. So now all the cost centers where this entry has been posted is with me. So total amount is 30,77,461, and I can go to each of them and I can see in Germany it is 28 lakhs, which is the maximum out of 30 lakhs. 28 lakhs has been posted. Rest all, either it is very negligible or it's not there. So then we can look at Germany and see where, out of 28.84 lakhs, where it is posted the maximum. So 194, 27,000. I see this is 24.80 out of 28, so that is like almost 80% of the cost is in the technical area. And these are very, very small amount. So from a controlling perspective, you would like to not run after needle, but you would like to see the hay rather than the needle. So this is again 50% of the total amount which is posted here. So services also has a big amount. These are a small amount. Is nothing. But so which means that this one and this one are the maximum. Then you can go to services and you can see where is this 1497 posted. This is a small amount. This is the bigger one. 1494 out of 1497 is in this technical facilities. And if you go to production, out of 979, this one is 2 lakhs. This is 3 lakhs, so 5 lakhs, 6. Others are smaller amount. So you know where to look for. And once you identify it, you also know that how will you go down into this actual line item and you can see the actual transactions. So this is cost accounting depreciation, and you can then further analyze it, or you can reach out to the accountant who has posted this entry, this Steiner, and understand what is this all about. So uh, from controlling cost center report, you will be able to get down to not just cost center, but each and every line item that has been posted in the cost center, and you can analyze it. So I'll come out of this report and again execute it. I'll remove this and I'll take. Similarly, you can analyze it, all of your cost account. So from a domain perspective, you know how will you analyze the cost. So this is just an example I have given, but it should not be so difficult for all of you to spot issues in this report. So the total actual cost is 27 million and plan is 29.8 million. And these are all credits, which means the amount that has been transferred to other cost centers. So that is 4 million and 28 million, leaving a big amount as under absorbed. Now, these are things which a controller would analyze it uh, in in much detail, and it will try to figure out whether the capacity underutilization was to this extent that there is so much of amount remaining under absorbed, or there was some issue with the planning that has been done, and so where to find out areas of opportunity. So each of this technical area, if you go, you can see this much amount is there on the plant production centers. So you can find out um, where there is less credit, or there is some issue with the planning that no uh, you know credit has happened in actual, but in planning there is a lot of activity. So this report will provide you with a lot of data to understand the cost center accounting and analyze it from the perspective of controlling. So these are the amount which have been credited, and you see most of them are 6 series, which means they are all secondary cost element. And which is where I was telling you that the internal activity that happens within the controlling is all done by secondary cost element. And this one which you see is debited, the secondary cost element, is because there is a sender cost center and there is a receiver cost center. So you can take example from here, let's say administration. So let me figure out one example. Yeah, so take this example. This cost center 4100 has received cost from uh, you know, corporate services. Okay. And if you go to the corporate services cost center, you'll see a credit of this amount 65,594. What we can do is click this open. Triple 110. So this report gives you further detail of the uh, you know item that has been allocated. So it is bit complex report, but with just as you get experience, you will understand this better. So you can expand this and say which are the cost center from where the cost has been received. So cost center and activity. So corporate services. So how does this work? Let me first help you understand this. So let us take cafeteria is a cost center and number is 1100. And during the month, it is receiving, say, water expenses, food, salaries for the staff, electricity. Let's say this is the total amount that it is receiving, and this amount is 10 lakh. Now, the services of cafeteria is used by several departments like finance, admin, sales, production, and let's take HR, IT. Okay, so let us just assume that these are the department that is using the services of cafeteria. On some basis, we'll have to distribute or allocate this cost onto this department. So maybe we'll find out the number of employees and convert that into percentage and say 20% on this department, 5% here, 20% here. Production will be say 40%. Then 5% and 10%. Okay, so this is 100%. So using this information, we will allocate the cost, see how this cost will be uh, divided into. So this actually 20. Right. So we have distributed this. Okay, so this is called. So when I look at the finance department cost center, let's say this cost center number is 1000. So this cost center will have say salary, uh, um, then stationery, legal expenses, and so on. So it will have this all will be the direct expenses for this cost center, and on top of it, it will also receive this 2 lakhs as cafeteria expense. So all this, let's say this is 5 lakhs, this is 90,000, and this is 150,000. The total cost to the finance department will come to 9,40,000. So what we have done is we have taken the total cost of the cafeteria. We have divided across the end user department that are making use of the cafeteria as a service. And we found the cost of one department, which will include the cafeteria. Now, when you want to see the detail of this cost, you'll have to go into the cafeteria cost center. From here, you cannot figure out how much is the cost of water or the food or electricity. So this kind of allocation is called um, assessment. So assessment is done when you cannot identify the source cost element or the primary cost element, which you can only identify in the cafeteria cost center, but you cannot identify it in the finance cost center. The finance cost center will receive it as a cost from service provider. It will not receive individual uh, cost element, whereas the individual cost element will be booked in the sending cost center, which is the cafeteria. So this will be called the sender, and these are the receivers. On the receiving cost center, you will not be able to see like how much of food has been incurred or how much of electricity has been incurred. What you get to see is the cost of the service provider, cost of the cafeteria services, which is incurred by the finance department. And this is called assessment. There's another allocation that we do, which is called distribution. So what is distribution and how is now it different from assessment?
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah, just give me 5 more minutes, after which I'll give you time to ask questions. Okay, so if you have, say, water, for example, now you would like to, all cost centers would like to see the cost of water. I'm just giving example, so take it from there. Now, let us say that this amount is 2 lakhs. Okay. And this 2 lakh will also be distributed to all this department in the same proportion. So which means uh, how much finance department will receive this 2 lakhs into 20%. Okay. So if this comes as a distribution, then you'll see water here, and that will be 40,000. So this is called distribution, where you can see the original cost element, water. This is a GL account, say 425920, and here also you will see this GL account 425920. Okay. But in this case, you will see a secondary cost element. Secondary cost element will be named as cafeteria 625251. Okay. So this is the assessment cost element which you will see. So this is the difference between assessment and distribution. So let me go into the report and show you that. So these are all assessment, which means there is a sending cost center which has sent this cost to this cost center 4100, and this is a cost center which this cost center has sent to other cost centers. So this is an assessment because it is using the secondary cost element. Distribution, you will get to know if you have to go into the cycle and see, which we'll see in some time. And distribution will be part of this. It will come here. So this is where it is telling you that it has sent this cost from this cost centers 1412, and this is the cost center to which it has sent cost 4200. So what I'll do is I'll open up another screen. Okay, so this cost center technical service is 4100, has sent cost to 4200, 11886. So I would like to see it on this cost center. And the cost element is 615000. Actual cost is here. Actual cost. Let us look at the plan cost only. It's okay. So this cost center 4200 has received this cost 615000 what we'll have to see from where it is received. So these are the cost element and the cost that it has received from different cost centers. So on the one side there is receivers, and on the other side you will see the senders. So sender will send. Now how this cost is sent? It is using the assessment cycle. I'll show you that. If you go to accounting, controlling, then cost center accounting. So this is called assessment cycle, KSU3. Uh, so you will define that it is again done based on the controlling area. You'll define the cycle name, start date and end date. Usually we keep the end date longer one so that it can be done again and again. And this is you can also select iterative, which means that uh, if there is iteration to be done based on the cost, the sender and receiver. So sender is the is sending cost to receiver, and receiver is again sending it back. Then there will be an iteration involved. So SAP will do that iterative. So this is the sender cost center. T whatever is 111 000, and then you got receiver cost centers. This is what happens here. You got sender and receiver, and they are sending cost based on whatever cost has been accounted. And then this is the percentage which is defined the same way I have calculated in Excel file. And you come to header, you'll see the assessment cost element. So this is assessment general. Okay. So we will make some settings like we want to do a complete assessment 100% of the cost we want to access, and we will do it in fixed percentages. So this cost element will be used in the sender cost center as well as the receiver cost center. So that let us look at a few slides on cost center planning. I think few more minutes and then I'll open up for questions. So cost center planning forms part of the overall business planning process and is prerequisite for standard costing. So data from cost center will be used in the standard costing, because on the cost center we'll calculate the activity rate, and that activity rate will be used in standard costing, which we'll see as we go forward how that will be used. The standard costing involves planning values and quantities for specified time frames independently of the actual values from previous period. So both can work independently. It involves entering plan figure for cost, activities, prices, or statistical key figure. for a particular cost center and a particular planning period. So you can define the period for which you want to plan. Typically, you will plan for the whole year, but then for the period January to December 2022, your planning process will start now, at least 4 or 5 months before the start of uh, the fiscal year, and then the when the fiscal year start, the planning figure is already there in the cost center. So when the actual data comes, you can do the comparison, and you can figure out the variances by comparing plan value with the actual value. Plan cost and plan activity quantities are used to determine the activity prices, which we'll see as we go forward. Now, there is something called activity dependent planning and activity independent planning. So, uh, if you think of the production cost centers, we are doing an activity dependent planning because we are doing planning based on the activities that are planned on those cost centers. But in finance department, for example, we will not plan for activity uh, because there is no production happening on those departments. It is just the transfer of cost. So uh, we will identify the department on which the production is happening, uh, and those cost centers will do activity dependent planning. The others will do an activity independent planning. So activity independent cost planning covers both primary and secondary cost, but does not refer to a specific activity type. In SAP, so there are two T codes, KP06 and KP26, that we'll use, which is used for activity dependent planning and independent planning. The versions which we have already seen at the beginning, uh, this forms the basis for planning. We can define as many versions as we want, but the base version will always be 0. Now, this is the kind of design that typically is followed, but again, it is modified based on the company requirement. So your primary cost gets posted to production department, service department, marketing department, and this primary cost will be for, say, salary, depreciation, uh, for legal expenses, or electricity, and all these items. Uh, Based on the service that is utilized, you'll do an assessment. So this service cost centers, uh, cost is 150,000. That will get distributed in some ratio, so that 60,000 is received in the production and 90,000 is received in the marketing department. So the total cost becomes 110,000 on production. Service department becomes 0 because it has transferred all its cost, and the marketing department will have 90,000 added, so it will become 175,000. Now the total cost of the production department is 110,000, and let's say that we are planning for 50,000 hours of capacity on the production cost center. Then the activity price will be 110,000 divided by 50,000. So that is 2.2 rupees per hour. So this is how you will come to the activity price for any production cost center. It is a simplistic design. I've not done a lot of complexities here. Very simply, I've taken 3 sets of cost centers within the organization: service, marketing, and production. Now, what happens to this cost, marketing cost? While this cost gets absorbed onto the product, this cost goes to the income statement. And so at the end, you will see that if everything gets absorbed here, then production cost will become 0. If it is not absorbed, then part of the cost will remain on the production cost center. And that will then go as an unabsorbed cost on our income statement. So we'll go through this. I've already shown you some of these versions and the controlling area. And we have seen the master data for cost center, cost element, and also the activity yesterday. And we also seen the cost center hierarchy. Now, after some question and answer, I will go into these transactions and I'll show you in more detail. Okay, so go ahead with your questions now.
Sir, could you elaborate on the primary and secondary cost center? I didn't get that clearly actually.
Yeah, so whatever gets posted directly from your FI into the cost center is a primary cost center, is a primary cost element.
Okay. So all GL codes
So
are
travel,
primary cost elements in that case then?
so if you say all GL, then what about asset? What about land and buildings? What about bank accounts? Do you think
Expense GL
they should
codes.
also go?
Yeah.
Right, correct. Expenses, you will classify most of them as a cost element.
So which ones will be the secondary
So they
ones?
will be all primary cost element. Yeah, secondary cost element is when you have to transfer cost from cafeteria cost center to the finance department, because finance department is utilizing services of the cafeteria. Then this gets posted as a secondary cost element. This one is a secondary cost element.
Okay.
So whenever transfer of cost happens from cost center to cost center, which in cost accounting language, which we have learned in our CMA days, we used to call it allocation.
Okay.
So that allocation is done using secondary cost element.
Okay. So if we want to take a GL extract with all the primary at the primary cost level, which T code can we use? Is it FBL3N which we can use, or how do we do that?
Well, it depends on the purpose. You can use F.01 where you can have the cost element. You can also use some of the cost center reports that you can do. There are certain reports where you can see the cost elements only. So you can run reports by cost element. That you can do. There are a lot of reports.
Okay, why I asked was if
So some of the reports that I have been executing here,
okay,
they have got cost elements within a cost center. So if you are using any controlling report, you can also see the cost element posted on the cost center.
okay.
Sir, Amol here, sir. Amol Joshi.
Yeah.
Sir, can you please go to the distribution or assessment cycle screen, sir? I just want to ask one thing. Distribution or assessment cycle screen?
Acha, okay. In SAP?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, this one.
Yeah. Sir, yeah. Sir, here if I want to, here you have specified the assessment GL. And on the last receiver's tracing factor, here we have selected 4 or 5 cost centers. Suppose
Correct.
there are say 50 or 60 cost centers.
Right.
And if I want to use certain values instead of percentages to allocate the cost, so usually it is done through statistical key figures.
Correct.
So could you please show how to prepare the cycles based on the
So in that case, you'll have to select the variable portion here. Okay. And in that, so when you select variable portion, you will be you'll have to take the statistical key figure, which will come here. That field will come here. So then you can take the statistical key figure. The other option is to take another cycle called indirect activity allocation. Okay, which is this one.
Okay.
So here you define variable portion and you can define the statistical key figure. And the receiving tracing factor, you will define the statistical key figure here. So this you see 9101. It is square meter. Okay. So something like rent, for example. So we will define square meter as a unit for allocating the cost, and every department we will plan for SKF, which means basically we'll define what is the square meter of that department. Okay, then SAP will go into them and it will figure out, and here you will see right now it is showing 100, but SAP will do that calculation when the cycle is executed.
Okay. Got it.
So this indirect activity allocation cycle is mostly used, but this is more complex cycle. Of course, it requires also testing. Like you have to select quantities, okay, and you have to define it well. You have to do the testing properly, and then only you can execute this.
Okay.
But the assessment and distribution cycle, which I have shown, is much simpler. See, some of the quantities don't change so often. For example, your office space doesn't change.
Correct. Yes.
So, based on the area, you can also define it, convert it into percentage. Okay, when you convert, it becomes much easier. I'm just saying, from a design perspective, it becomes much simple. Of course, you can always use the indirect assessment and all that, but it is, like I've said, a slightly more complex design. If you are capable of handling that, then do it. Otherwise, you can even use this simple fixed percentage, variable portion. You can try one of these. Fixed portions also you can try. So when you try the fixed portions, in the receiving tracing factor, you can enter the portion here.
Okay.
So assessment cycle that way will become much easier to manage and maintain if your users are not so controlling savvy. There are times when you will also look at your team and say, what kind of system do I do? So that way assessment and distribution are much simpler to understand. Like in a simple Excel file I have helped you understand. Activity allocation will be slightly more complex.
Yes. Correct.
But then you can also make use of this, not to do take SKF, but you can take fixed portions and do it.
Okay, sir. Okay. Thank you, sir.
You can also, there are times when we take number of employees as the base.
Yes.
But then every month someone will have to enter that factor. This just adds to your work. What
Correct.
happens, in a proper design system, you should also consider what will be the cost of maintaining the system. You don't want to add people at a time when companies are looking at ways to reduce the people.
Correct. Yes, correct.
So you can design it in a way which actually does not create extra work.
Okay, sir.
So keeping it simple is always better.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, sir.
But good. I think you know about it, so you asked about the SKF.
Yeah, sir. We in my company we usually prepare all the cycles through Escape.
Through SKF.
And for that we consider the budget data as the basis.
Correct.
And through that we allocate the cycle. Execute the cycles on monthly basis.
Correct.
And we don't change the percentages in between. We change that directly once we start the budget for the next year.
Yes, this is a good practice to adopt. That your plan cycle, actually, this cycle can also be copied when you. So you can plan you can copy your plan cycle into actual. So all the parameters that you did for plan will be copied into actual, and you will just execute the way it is.
Yes.
So you don't change your plan allocation, because then only you can do some comparison.
Correct.
If you change the actual allocation, then your plan and actual difference, one of the parameter will be the change in allocation, and it will be very difficult for you to find out how much is attributable to change in allocation value versus the posted differences.
Correct. Yes, sir. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Sir,
Yes, go ahead.
the assessment cycles which you showed now, right? You selected it from that F4 selection, right? So that is a configuration setting, or how it is?
No, this is all end user screen. This is not
Uh,
configuration. This one
no,
is
no. You went
so
into one transaction, no? Like that assessment cycle display.
yeah. So if I come to the cost center accounting,
Hmm.
then the period end closing, single function, and this is the assessment.
Yes, huh. Here you selected that cycle, no? From how do we
Yeah, yeah,
create the cycle actually?
yeah. So creation of a cycle, there is a T code here. So KSU7 is the code for creating. We go to this KSU7.
Seven.
So you can create a plan assessment cycle. Okay, you can name your cycle, and if you want, you can also copy that cycle from somewhere else. Okay, so you can make it two, and I'll select this cycle to be copied. Okay, so this is exactly copied from the earlier cycle. Okay, you can make the changes that you want, and you can save it. So that way you can create a cycle. So create a cycle, changes KSU8, and then displays KSU9.
Okay.
So this is the display of the cycle. One.
Okay.
You can delete the cycle using KSUA, and you can execute using KSUB. Okay. Similarly, the distribution cycle. Let us look at the distribution cycle. So this one, the difference is that you don't see a cost element here at the header level. So it does says that you want to post the posted amount and the fixed percentage. But when you come to this sender receiver, it gives you the cost element. And as you can see, this is a 4 series, which is the primary cost element in the controlling area 1000. So sender R is cost center 4280, cost limit is 473,000, 473,000, and it will be distributed in this ratio.
Okay. So the example which we discussed, like this cost center 4200 should be, for example, water cost center.
Right. No, no, not water cost center, cafeteria cost center.
Okay.
Yeah. Cost center is
Okay. And
cafeteria. Okay, so this is the cost center,
uh,
and this is the water.
okay.
Okay.
Huh. Huh.
This is the cafeteria, and this is the cost element, say water. So this is what we will transfer to all these cost centers as a distribution, not as an assessment.
Okay. Okay. So sir, in that sender receiver, there is one more field that is defined. What is that?
Sender receiver here.
Down.
This one.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Huh.
this is called, if you double click on this, it gives you the group. So this is the receiver. Okay.
Okay.
These are exactly this one, this cost centers. They are
Okay.
receivers.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
so here we will build a relationship of sender and receiver. This is the sender,
Mm.
and this is the receiver. You can have a group of cost center as sender.
Mm.
You can have a group of cost center as receiver.
Okay.
Hmm?
Okay. Okay.
Sir, another probably a basic question. So one cost center can have one or more or multiple cost elements. Is that the case?
Yeah. So if you see this
Yeah.
report, one cost center can have a large number of cost
Yeah.
elements.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So you can post, it is quite obvious. Huh? Say if your department, finance department is a cost
Yeah.
center, then you will have salaries, you'll have, I don't know what all, maybe you can have legal expenses, you will also have depreciation on the laptops. So you will have multiple items, multiple GL accounts that gets posted to your cost center.
Okay, clear. Yeah.
Hmm? You will have travel expenses, there can be many other GL accounts, printing and stationery, all that will get posted into your cost center.
Yeah, clear. Thanks. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So can all of you switch off your mic if you're not asking questions? Okay. So now what we'll do is we'll do some planning to understand how it works. And I talked about some of these T codes. So let us look first, start thinking of what we'll do. So we'll just take few cost center to make it simple. Let us take a finance call center, take an admin call center, um, and which is this. Okay, so these are four cost centers. Uh, so finance and admin are the service providers. They provide services to purchases and production. Finally, the cost of purchases will be borne by production department, assuming that purchase department is working completely for production department. So we'll have to um, do planning in this way so that the cost is flowing into the production department, and then we will figure out how much cost is there in the production department. So for that, what we'll need is we'll have to have cost centers. So we'll start with cost center first. So within this, what I will do is I'll create a hierarchy, and where we'll accommodate our cost centers. So I've created this, and now I want to create uh, cost center. So I'm using the same controlling area. But actually, I want to build it in this. Okay, so now it is better. So this appears as H1010 and 1020, and we will create a cost center here. Let us see the name. So I'll try to see 10, 2, 3, 1021. So within this hierarchy, we have created our first cost center. We will create the next. So this is green, so this cost center is properly created. And then I will have third one, which is purchasing department. One moment, let us take this. So our cost centers are created. Now, next step is to do some planning for this cost centers. So we'll identify some of the cost elements and we'll plan out some values. So this is KP26, where I can plan for the capacity of the production department. So I'll take this 1023 and takes this machine hour. I can define my capacity for this cost center and the activity combined. So call it 10,000, 12,000. So right now I will keep this blank. This is the price per unit. We'll do it subsequently. So at this stage, what I have done is I have calculated capacity of my production department. Now I go to KP26. This KP06 is change activity type or price planning. I'll go to KP06, where I'll do cost element and activity input planning. So my cost will be 1023, activity type is 1420, and here I will define few cost elements so I can plan for them. So I've taken a range of cost element. Now, what I'm doing is for this fiscal year, the period 1 to 12, the cost center is 1023, which is my production department. And the activity 1420, which is my machine hour, I'm planning my cost. So I'll take a different layout. So for each of these cost element, I can plan for my cost. Okay, and I will just take anything. This is variable cost. So let's take I'll say this. So if you see, I planned for one production, one cost center, and the planning cost is appearing here. Okay. This is one cost center planning I have done only for production. I have to do a lot of other work too, but let me. I'll keep doing this, and I'll also show you in the report. So we have planned for production department. We have planned their capacity, and we have planned for the cost. So now we have to plan for the cost of these three departments, which is 20 to 22. I'll remove the activity type because I don't need activity type, and doesn't matter what is the text of this cost element. So I'll plan for fixed cost because there is no variable cost in this department. So let's say 10 lakhs in lakhs. How much it is? 8 lakhs. Lakhs. Sorry. So plan for 2020. Now I need to plan for others. 2021. So let's take 45, 45 lakhs, 120,000, 10 lakhs, 45. So I have to also plan for the third one. So this is the third one. So 25 lakhs. You see, there is a distribution key here. So this distribution key will determine how the distribution happens. So if I open this up, so this is distributed equally. So it is also possible to distribute this amount over the year in different ways. You know, if you are into a seasonal business, you can define your season and you can do a distribution that way. If you want to distribute equally, it is possible. Okay, you can distribute by percentages. So there are a lot of method in which you can distribute it over the month. So the planning I'm doing is from period 1 to 12. The whole year is this plan. So if I run my report again, so all the cost centers you see have been planned. Of course, I've taken only the same cost elements. This is an example, so it shouldn't matter. Okay, so first part of our work is done. We have planned on all the different cost centers. Now what we have to do is we have to think of let us think of how will we do a distribution. So what we'll do is we'll plan for a cost element on, let's take this admin cost center 1021. So we are planning for water. So now if I go back to my report, see water has come here. And it is there in only the admin department and not in other departments. So we'll make a distribution of this and rest all we'll do an assessment so that we can demonstrate both the kind of cycle.
Sir,
Yes.
so sir, where could I find the difference of KP26 and KP06 here in the report?
So this is all value. Need to take another report. So here you see we have done based on the activity. We have planned for activity on the production cost center 1023, which appears in this report. Now, this is a planning report. So where it says we have done this by activity, and it is called activity dependent cost because this is by activity. And you see below there is an activity planned 10,000 and 12,000. So in this report you can get to see what you want to see. KP06, KP26, both. And if you see the other cost centers, 1021, then you will simply see this as a activity independent cost. At the beginning, I talked about activity dependent and activity independent. Whenever you are planning for an activity, then it is activity dependent. Finance department, admin department will not have the activity that will be consumed in the product. So all the costs will be activity independent cost. And if you come down here, you will not see any capacity because there is no such activity in the finance or admin department.
Okay. So tell me one more thing. In KP06, we did the activity independent planning, right? So in KP06 itself, can I not do the activity dependent planning as well?
No,
Because there is one activity type field coming there, no?
See, first thing you have to figure out what I did step by step. I did first KP26 and I did KP26 only for production department. And then I came to KP06 and I planned only for production department. After which I did KP06 again. So I can do activity dependent planning only once when I plan for capacity in KP26. KP26 is planning for capacity.
Okay.
So unless I plan my capacity, I can't build cost for that. So KP26 is not for activity dependent or independent. It is planning for your capacity.
Okay.
In KP06, you will do activity dependent and activity independent planning, depending upon which cost center you had planned for activity. So KP06, I did the manufacturing cost center and activity dependent planning. And then I did the finance department using KP06 and activity independent planning, where I did not plan for activity along with cost element. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
So let's keep moving. So we have reached at this stage where we have done all the planning that was required to be done on various cost centers and cost elements. So admin, I have where do I put X? This is how I have planned. So all this cost element I have planned in all the departments. It may be not correct way of doing. It's okay because I'm doing a example after all. And this water cost element I have defined only in admin. So my plan is to do a distribution of this water expense on other department, and then do an assessment of finance cost, admin cost on purchase and production. And finally, the purchase department cost will also go into production, because my purchase department is only catering to production department. There is an assumption right now. Okay, this is my basis for planning, and this is my basis for doing the distribution and assessment. In your company, when you do this, you will have to build all these assumptions beforehand, how your value will flow. Based on that, you will design your cost centers and everything else that we are doing right now. Okay. So we'll first do this KSV7. So to find out some way of naming these cycles. So 2021-1 cycle, number one cycle started in 01012021. One zero two one 416300. Now, how I want to distribute it? So I'll now use KSVB. There's an error. Okay, this one also has some issue. So I will have to look at this error which is coming up, and it may take some time because it is asking for some customizing object which it is not able to find. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll go to the next step. For a moment, let's keep this particular step pending, and let me see if I can execute the subsequent step to show you how this rates get calculated. So it has calculated the rate, but it is also giving something wrong here. Activity quantity is 8,33,333. 1023, 1420 is our activity. This is the total cost we are planning on the production cost center, and this is the direct cost we are talking about. Because our assessment cycles have issues, we are not transferring any cost from this cost center to production right now. So what we are calculating is the total cost of production department, and we have planned for some activities. And based on this, SAP has calculated these prices. This is 1934.80. We'll have to find out whether it is correct or not. So we had we have to see how much of the variable cost we had planned and how much of the fixed cost that was planned. So this is the total cost, and it includes this much of variable cost, 16498.00. So total cost fixed this is the fixed cost and the variable cost. Now we have planned for capacity. Activity quantity is 10,000 and capacity is 12,000. So capacity is 12,000 and plan is 10,000. So if you have to divide this by this, this comes to 1,934.80. Fixed is 1,649. When I calculate, it comes to 1,660. There is some difference which we'll have to figure out why is it giving this difference. Quantity is 833.333. That is because this one is divided by 12. So this will be divided by 10,000. So if we come to KP26, there are multiple possibilities in the way we can set it up on how the capacity cost gets calculated. So here we have taken plant price automatically based on activity. Okay. So what SAP has done is it has taken the total cost and divided it by the plant capacity and arrived at this rate. The other way of doing is if I take 2, I'll save it and I'll again run this report. It is not a report, it's a program. I don't want to post. This comes to 1659.83. So which is the total of these two. So what is the difference between these two calculation? Can anyone tell me? In the first, we selected a method by dividing plant capacity. In the second, we are doing this way. So what is the difference? So anyone has done this kind of work of calculating the capacity cost or the machine hour rate? Very silent. So there are two methods, first and second. The first method, I'm taking the plant capacity and I'm dividing the total cost with the plant capacity. In the second method, uh, I'm taking plant capacity and dividing the variable with the plant and then taking the uh, uh, capacity, which is the installed capacity, and dividing the fixed cost. So what I get the activity rate is an average of these two. So I will divide my variable cost with planned capacity and the fixed cost with the total installed capacity. And there are, in cost accounting, there are proper reasons for this, why you'll do this. Because in many companies where you have a large installed capacity, you will have a fixed cost which will not be absorbed in the production. But if you have a situation where your cost gets, all your fixed cost gets absorbed in the production, then you will go for the first method, where you'll divide the total cost by the plant capacity. So these are the two ways in which capacity calculation is done. So what we have to do now is um, fix the assessment and distribution cycle, and I'll show you uh, how will the cost of finance, admin, and purchase will flow to production, and this cost will increase by the cost incurred in these departments. And then I will also show you the distribution. I'll have to fix the cycle, and we'll again carry that out in our next class. So with this exercise, what we'll get to is the activity price. And activity price is used in product costing. When you are doing the cost of a product, you'll use the machine hour rate and multiply it with the quantity or the machine hour quantity that is used for the production. That way you will arrive at the total amount that will be charged, or the conversion cost that will be charged to the product. So that is the use of doing this exercise of planning activity dependent cost, activity independent cost, and planning for the capacity in KP26. So any questions that you all have? Yeah, ask the question. You can ask, unmute and ask. No questions? Okay. What you all can do is you can please come to my website, go to Hi More and Hi. I'll give you this link and provide your contact and your feedback. It will also help me to share the deck with all of you. I'll send it to all of you over the email. So you can use this link and provide your email address so I can send out the deck of the session that we have done so far on your email ID. Okay, so if you don't have any questions, then we call it off day. It's already late Sunday evening now, and we'll again meet in the next class that the ICMI will send you details, and we will again come and discuss the next steps, which is the product costing. Okay, thanks all of you. Have a great evening. Bye.